Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. This is live stream number 1022. Yowza. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and I'll usually pontificate about our hobby for a bit after we tackle the news, but we're certainly not engaged in any mental heavy lifting by any stretch of the imagination. No, that's right. We are not engaged in rocket surgery. No, just hanging out, having some fun. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, it's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our friend of the show, the Motor City Madman himself. Yes. The Madman is with us, as is Kathy Evans and Jose Fernandez. I see Flaming Herons also popping on into chat, and I would not be shocked if Miss Sarah D is also lurking in the shadows. So we may have all three of our chat moderators hanging out here live in chat tonight, as is kind of usually the case. So welcome, everybody. A couple of things I do want to mention. On tonight's show, I am going to be marking the birth of a great American. I'm going to talk about that person after we do the news. And also, you may notice my voice is a little bit different. So I'm actually speaking at a relatively normal volume, because what I normally will do is I try to project, and it seems to me when I project, my voice is higher. My voice is not as high as it sounds on the videos. So I have been doing some editing of videos over the past few days. You may have noticed we've been seeing new videos on top of the live streams just about every single day. So I have been cranking out a lot of content, and I was editing a few videos and I thought, my God, my voice just sounds so high. And it's because I'm projecting, trying to project my voice. But the realization is I don't need to project my voice. So please don't think I'm lacking in enthusiasm or anything like that tonight, because I am very enthusiastic. It's just I'm speaking pretty much at a regular level. Actually, to be honest, it's a little bit higher, a little louder, I guess I'll say, than I would in a conversation. But it is very strange when you know you're talking to a camera through a microphone. It's, if I were just going to sit here and talk, like this is what I would normally be saying. It's about my normal level, just sitting in the kitchen having a conversation with somebody. To me, it's a little too quiet. All right. Matthew Blackwell is with us. Sarah D is lurking in the shadows, as I thought she may. Smokin' Pots is with us. I think this might be a first-time visit for Smokin' Pots, because that is actually a handle that would have jumped out at me previously. They said they're going to the local game store tomorrow and sit and pray that over time, month perhaps, they can fill a table for regular Twilight 2000. Holy moly. Says, play that as much as you like, if you ask me. I'm going to actually discuss something about a role-playing campaign after the news as well. So I've got a lot to chat about tonight. Let's see, who else? Anybody else popping on in? There we go. Our friend Kevin King and, brother. It's going to be one of those nights. Yeah. Stephen from Roll for Combat's here. Hi, Stephen. Stephen knows. It's out of love. I tease out of love. And Jeff N4 POD is with us. I believe another first-time visitor in chat. They said, hi, y'all. East Tennessee is in the house. Very nice. Let's jump on into the news because I've got plenty of it tonight. Arriving this month from PHALANX Games is Huang. And here's what I know. Unite China under your banner, quash your enemies, and claim the emperor's throne. Lead an ancient China kingdom dreaming of imperial power. Wouldn't that be a Chinese kingdom? Yes, I know PHALANX is not a company here in the United States. Aren't they German? For some reason, I want to say they're German. Anyway, lead an ancient Chinese kingdom dreaming of imperial power, establish new states, build pagodas, strive for influence, and battle to unite the country under your glorious dynasty. Huang is set in the Warring States period, 475 to 221 BC. Or maybe that's BCE. A time of endless wars between 7 rival states: Qin, Chao, Qi, Yan, Han, Wei, and Zhao. I believe I have pronounced those correctly. Huang is a 2 to 4 player game. Now, I'm not positive if I'm pronouncing the name of the game correctly. It's a 2 to 4 player game set in ancient China during the time of the Warring States. You take control of one of those warring states, battling to unite the country under your dynasty. Each player has 5 different leaders: governor, soldier, farmer, trader, and artisan. Clever placement of these leaders and their corresponding tiles on the board is key, allowing you to build pagodas to score points, trigger or avoid wars, and instigate peasant revolts that bring down your enemies. Play is fast and addictive, lasting about 90 minutes with a very short teaching time, reflecting the elegance of the rule set. Huang is for, once again, 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 90 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $59.99 when it lands in stores next week. There's also an expansion which features miniatures, which is what you are seeing in many of these images, because there's only one that I could find that actually showed the standees and not minis. So keep in mind, these miniatures that you're seeing like right this moment are not part of the core game. They are standees instead. Now, that expansion that does feature the miniatures for the game will also carry an MSRP of $59.99. And there are some other expansions also arriving at the same time. They're much smaller. Got to be honest, I do not have MSRPs on those. This is a Reiner Knizia design, and from my understanding, I believe it uses the same mechanics as it isn't the name of the game Yangtze and the Yellow River, or Yangtze and Yellow River. I've never played it. So this is a strategy game. This is certainly not a war game, although the news piece will be filed under the War Room over on thegaminggang.com when it pops up tomorrow. And El Gringo Sin Hambre, I don't even know if that's close, is joining us for the first time. They said they're finally catching the show live. Welcome aboard. Make yourself comfortable. So Jeff N4Pod says, I guess my other Nick wasn't subbed yet. Didn't know there was a 48-hour option. Yeah, there is. And the reason behind that, and I have to laugh because Hankering for an Ale from Runehammer Games was kind of ticked off at me because I did a news piece about his new role-playing game, Crown and Skull, last week. And I guess he showed up to take part in chat, but he wasn't a subscriber for 48 hours, so he could not take part in chat. So he had zeeted at me or messaged me on X, whatever, saying, pretty asinine. Or not really asinine. I think he said terrible. It was a terrible idea to make people wait 48 hours. And the thing is, and the funny thing is, I know that he does live streams. Are you trying to tell me that he doesn't have problems with trolls on his live streams? Because it happens to everybody. It's the reason why it's the 48 hours. Chris Lundgren is with us. Good to see you, Chris. Thanks for popping on in. So if you are joining me a little bit late, I am trying to do the show at my normal vocal volume. So maybe it sounds a little bit different. Don't know. But as I had mentioned in the opening of the show, kind of like, my voice isn't really as high as it sounds in the videos. Get off me! Get off me! Now available for pre-order from our friends over at Modiphius Entertainment is the latest supplement. It's the latest succulent. Duh. See? Different tone of voice. Same screw-ups over the English language. Now available for pre-order from my friends over at Modiphius Entertainment is the latest supplement for Achtung Cthulhu 2D20. I've got the skinny on Unexplored. Awesome expeditions through uncharted territory. It is said the journey is rather... Okay, hold on. That is not presented correctly. It is said it is the journey rather than the destination, which is more important. And Achtung Cthulhu Unexplored fills in the blank spaces on the map. Agents often simply redline through before their next epic encounter. No corner of the globe is safe from the unholy alliance of cultists and the mythos, and agents should be prepared to traverse all kinds of dangerous terrain to carry out their assignments. From the dark depths of perilous caverns to the sweltering jungles of the tropics, from the peaks of snow-capped mountains to the merciless sands of the desert, Unexplored allows you to traverse 6 separate biomes, randomly generating missions, challenges, and adventures with exciting expeditions through unknown territory. Create endless forms of wilderness adventure either on the fly, in preparation for a game session, or as inspiration for adventures of your own. Discover how weather, hazards, and environmental conditions will affect each expedition. Explore creative uses for threat. detect new NPCs, and deploy dangerous denizens like panthers, cougars, and alligators. Each chapter concludes with 4 detailed locations with a main mission and a host of adventure seeds to use as the climax for each journey, or provide an entertaining diversion along the way. This 144-page full-color softcover book features full rules for wilderness traversal, supplies, weather, and survival, 6 challenging biomes, caves and caverns, deserts, forests, jungles, mountains and hills, and plains. Unique events, challenges, and encounters for each environment. Hazards, terrain, Easter eggs, and even special effects unique to each biome. Detailed mission locations and adventure seeds for each and every biome, too. The threat of Black Sun, Nyarlathotep, and the Old Ones can't be ignored. Yet, from the highest peaks and the deepest oceans, crawl a myriad of new terrors awoken by this terrible conflict. We must be vigilant, and that means taking the battle to those little explored places. This does require the Achtung Cthulhu 2D20 core books in order to run. The 144-page softcover Achtung Cthulhu 2D20 Unexplored with PDF carries an MSRP of $44.99. You will receive the PDF immediately when you order. The physical book itself is going to ship out later this month. I have to point out, as of this show, the PDF is not available over on Drive-Thru RPG yet. I assume it's going to pop up there shortly. And I'll take a wild guess. We're probably looking at an MSRP, let's say $24.99. That is going to be my guess on this, knowing kind of how the pricing for Modiphius Entertainment goes. Lenny Blade is with us, as is John Snyder. Smoking Pot says, can someone please explain exactly what a troll is? Not in the Gygax way or in the RuneQuest way. Trolls are different in RuneQuest, and trolls are different in Tunnels and Trolls. Yes. A troll is just someone. Yes, there we go. So Jeff N4Pod is informing what a troll kind of is. Yeah, they're just a pain in the ass. Sometimes they'll just pop in and they'll just start throwing out oddball comments that have absolutely nothing to do with anything. So, let's see. Did I just say hello to John Snyder? I don't know if I did or not. See, just change the level, the volume level of my voice, and now my memory is shot. I don't know what's going on. Where am I? What day is this? What am I doing? Tessie, Trekkie, W. Forge, Gorlin, stab in the dark on that one, is also hanging out with us in chat, or I should say are hanging out with us in chat. I believe this might be a first-time visit or maybe a second-time visit. That is not a nickname that is jumping out in the old memory banks. Gerlin, thereabouts. So welcome everybody. Tessie Trekkie points out, don't feed the trolls. Smoking Pot says, sounds amazing. Achtung Cthulhu. Last week was Modiphius Entertainment Week here on the channel. So each and every day, I did share some Modiphius Entertainment videos. And the final video I shared was the Serpent and the Sands for Achtung Cthulhu. So if you are curious about that, check that out. I did touch base with the PR person from Modiphius Entertainment. I had to take a moment to remember what they're calling their department. Some companies call it marketing. Some people say it's, they're content creative, representative, whatever. But anywho, so I shot her an email, and I pointed out that our coverage of Modiphius Entertainment tends to be relatively spotty. And what I mean by that is I might get a core book to review, and I share coverage of that. And then there might be 3 releases for that system that come out. I don't see it. I don't see any of them. Then all of a sudden, the 5th release comes out and it shows up out of nowhere. I'm like, huh? What? It's like, and of course, it usually requires the other books, or at least some of the other books that have come before it. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. Just like Fallout. Got the Fallout core book and the starter set. But the other stuff that's come out for Fallout, I don't know. So I am hoping that we are able to solidify the relationship with Modiphius Entertainment. Now, there is another company that we are back on track with, and I am talking about Cubicle 7 Games. And this spring, it's going to see the release of the 13th Doctor source book for Doctor Who, the role-playing game. Here's what I know. This source book chronicles all of the 13th Doctor's adventures, not only on Earth with her newfound fam, but across the stars as new revelations are revealed that can destroy the very fabric of the universe. Featuring details of all of the Doctor's allies, enemies, aliens, and gadgets, this source book contains everything the Game Master could need for Doctor Who, the role-playing game, as well as being an informative resource for fans of the show. As the Doctor finds herself hurtling to Earth after her regeneration, she makes new friends that'll accompany her on brand new adventures, discovering a mysterious past with the secretive division, uncovering the plans of a new incarnation of the Master, trying to halt the relentless destruction of the Flux, to finding an incarnation of herself she didn't know even existed. Again, second incarnation that nobody knew about. Yes, I am talking about the War Doctor. It'll be frantic, exciting, and may shake what you believe down to the core. But whatever happens, it'll be brilliant. The 13th Doctor sourcebook contains summaries of all the 13th Doctor's adventures, from her fall to Earth to her confrontation with the Master Doctor, and how to run these adventures in your game. A detailed look at how the stories are connected, and plenty of ideas for game masters to create new adventures. Stats for the 13th Doctor and her extended fam, from Carvanista to Abby, Shauna, and Cleo. You can pre-order this 192-page hardcover, which includes the PDF, for an MSRP of $39.99. You can grab the PDF alone right now over at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. This hardcover is expected to arrive in Q2. Sweet. I should also mention, right now, I believe this was still out there yesterday, so I'm going to take a guess this deal is still available today, because I think it's only been out there for a few days. But over on Drive-Thru RPG, there is currently a bundle for all 13 of the Doctor source books in PDF. Off the top of my head, I believe it's $104.99. So I think you save, I believe it's a little more than 60%, or maybe it is 60% on those. And I have said this before, I will say it again. The Doctor Who source books for each of the Doctors are excellent. Even if you are not a fan of the role-playing game, you will enjoy these source books if you are a fan of Doctor Who. And if memory serves, Sarah D has these, or has some of these. I believe she's got the physical books, and agrees with me that you don't even need to be someone who's into role-playing games to enjoy them, because they have plot synopses of every single Doctor Who adventure. And I'm kind of curious because the ninth Doctor, isn't it the ninth? Is it the eighth or the ninth? That was the movie Doctor. Maybe it's the eighth. I don't know, because to be honest, I only saw like the last 5 minutes of the movie. Yeah, with Eric Roberts as the Master. Paul McGann as the Doctor. Although, funny enough, Paul McGann has done loads and loads of graphic audio, or not graphic audio, it's Big Finish audio, Doctor Who adventures, which is pretty cool. I think that's pretty wild. That, he is, he's canon, right? That's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Anyway, so by all means, check them out. Oh, Sarah says she has the digital version, so she's got the PDFs. And yes, I am correct that she likes them quite a bit. W. Forge is asking, what's everyone's preference, PDFs or physical books? If I am going someplace to run a role-playing game, which is normally the case, I don't tend to actually have people over here to play role-playing games. I like PDFs, to be honest. It is not unusual for me to have the physical book and the PDF on an iPad at the same time. So it's not unusual for me to do that, especially when I'm running Call of Cthulhu stuff, because then I can have specific information in front of me with the book, and then specific information in front of me on the tablet from the adventure. Tessie Trekkie says they've got all the Doctor source books, and they are full of a huge amount of info. So I did receive a huge shipment from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. You may have seen the first look at the Warhammer 40K Roleplay Wrath and Glory starter set. That was one of the items that arrived. I also did receive the 2 volumes of the Doctor Who 60 Years of Adventure, which we will be taking a look at, because next week is going to be Cubicle 7 Entertainment Week here on the channel. On to my next news piece. This is something a lot of people were very, very excited to see, because now available in PDF is Shadow of the Weird Wizard. And I've got the skinny from Schwalb Entertainment. Shadow of the Weird Wizard is a fantasy role-playing game in which you and your friends assume the roles of characters who explore the borderlands and make them safe from the refugees escaping the doom that has befallen the old country. Unsafe are these lands. The Weird Wizard released monsters to roam the countryside. Cruel fairies haunt the shadows. Undead drag themselves free from their tombs, and ancient evils stir once again. If the displaced people would rebuild their lives, they need heroes to protect them. Brand new game built using the system powering Shadow of the Demon Lord. This game gives you everything you need for you and your friends to champion the innocent, to brave grave dangers, and right terrible wrongs, all while exploring the wild frontier of the borderlands. Some saw him as a mad sorcerer who commanded eldritch powers of staggering might. As proof, one only has to look at the abominations he set loose in the lands, the hybrid beasts, the multi-legged hulking collectors, floating eyes that hang in the air, trailing their nerve endings. And then far, far beyond the edges of the new lands rose the walls of the Forbidden City and the clockwork peoples who dwelled there in seeming servitude to the dread mage who ruled over all he surveyed. But the Weird Wizard is gone. His shadow remains, but the figure casting it disappeared, and none, not even his closest servants, know where he went. It might be a coincidence that his absence preceded the bloody civil war that tore the great kingdom apart and that precipitated the violent struggle between the other nations in the West. Or the weird wizard might have had some stabilizing influence that enabled civilization to flourish once more following a far older, nastier decline. 2, he could have been the source of the conflict and abandoned the world to its fate. Either way, the instability sends people by the thousands spilling into the borderlands. As this territory grows more and more crowded, refugees are looking to the east to make their homes. The first forays into this strange place have ended with disappearances and death, and the few people who have returned carry tales of hostile inhabitants, cruel fairies, and hideous, ravenous monsters. If the new lands would be tamed, there must be peace with the inhabitants. Such efforts demand heroes. Luckily, there might just be a few around. This book shows you how to make a hero who can meet and triumph over the greatest challenges of exploring a world that stands in the shadow of a weird wizard. This 274-page PDF is now available through Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. So I do have a few items about this release, plus the upcoming secrets of the Weird Wizard. So, from my understanding, this is the player-facing book. So, all of the rules are in Shadow of the Weird Wizard. Now, I have heard some grumblings from people saying that, well, you know what, this is very unlike Shadow of the Demon Lord. It's a lot crunchier. Some people are saying it's way too bloated. But, and keep in mind, I am not familiar with Shadow of the Demon Lord. I have not read it. I mean, I understand the premise of it, and I know it is a grimdark kind of fantasy horror role-playing game. Keep in mind, that's sort of a genre of game because it is so focused on a specific setting, a specific type of game. It's going to probably be far more rules light than, say, Shadow of the Weird Wizard. Because Shadow of the Weird Wizard is supposed to be allowing for a variety of different play styles. So if you want epic high fantasy, you can play it that way. If you want more gritty, grimdark, you can play it that way. If you want it to be low fantasy, low magic, you can play it that way. So I understand that there are a lot of different ways for you to be able to present this as a game master for your players. So I think there might be some misunderstanding from people out there about it because of that. That they're thinking, oh, it's just Shadow of the Demon Lord with the serial numbles. I think some people backed this on Kickstarter thinking it was going to be Shadow of the Demon Lord with the serial numbers. Why do I keep want to say numbles? Serial numbers filed off. And it's not. It is actually kind of advancing Shadow of the Demon Lord. Now, I should point out, I reached out to Robert Schwalb over at Schwalb Entertainment, and I got a copy of the PDF, and we should be seeing the physical books, or at least the first physical book, in August. They're about sometime in August. I would think their game plan is probably to have it out by Gen Con, at least this core book. Secrets of the Weird Wizard is going to come out in around 6 weeks in PDF. That is the Game Master facing book. It's going to have a lot of advice as far as running the game. And I believe it also has a bestiary that will feature about 100 creatures, I think. So I am very curious about this. I am going to be taking a peek. Of course, I'm not going to do a review from the PDF because I do not do reviews from PDFs, but I do have it available. I will probably peek through it to maybe prep a little for when the physical book or books do come out, because I wouldn't be shocked if Schwalb Entertainment is hoping to get both Shadow of the Weird Wizard and Secrets of the Weird Wizard out in hardcover at right about the same time. So very cool. So this is something that you might want to take a peek at, especially if you are a fan of Shadow of the Demon Lord. So kind of going back through chat here, Chris Lundgren says they can't look at a tablet for too long. Their eyes start to hurt. I have PDFs for printing out charts or sharing with my players at the table. I don't really have an issue reading from a PDF. I mean, I wouldn't do it for like 5 hours. So, but yeah, I don't mind. Kevin King says they prefer the Big Finish productions of Doctor Who to what's been airing on the BBC. They prefer story to explosions. Yeah, Big Finish, they do a pretty good job with those. Although I will say, I think they're pretty pricey for what you end up with. Yeah, I think they're pretty pricey. Geraldine says they don't host their game, which makes the portability of PDFs very nice. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Jeff N4Pod says, I can't comprehend getting enjoyment reading a PDF, but love using them to search for specific things. Smoking Pot says, I see what your channel is now. I'll keep an eye out for future stuff, but I have enough game systems on my shelves. Best of luck, night all. Okay, not sure what Smoking Pots might have thought this channel is. Maybe they didn't realize what the live stream is, as opposed to the other videos, such as the first looks and reviews. Maybe they thought this was an actual play or something. I don't know. Kevin King says, strongly suspect most of the people in this chat have enough game systems on their shelves. Yeah, I would say that's probably the case here. Kevin King says, yes, the Kickstarter for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition Science Fiction went live today. They might have just enough shelf space for that. I will have a news piece of that on Thursday. I am pretty jammed with news already. I had today's show pretty much ready to go on Sunday. I have tomorrow's news all lined up too. So I will be sharing some Pinnacle Entertainment news, or I should say Pinnacle Entertainment Group news on Thursday. Final news piece. There is a new supplement for the Paranoia role-playing game, which is landed in PDF. I've got the dope on the 404 Compendium. Like most role-playing games, missions, aka adventures, are the bread and butter of Paranoia. After all, you cannot play without a mission to run through. But what about non-mission ideas? What about GMs who are brave, wise, and insane enough to make their own missions or want content to drop into their games? The 404 Compendium includes central casting, a collection of ready-made NPCs to drop into missions to make things even more deranged. Do the players pull a fast one and want to chat to a non-existing NPC? Guess what? They exist now. My Metal Chums. 7 most common bots get their own NPC write-ups and several variations, as well as more bots that you can shake a 5-pronged plug at. Also, Joybots scare us a little. Not so simple. Players starting to get a bit cocky. Keep your head out of the gutter, citizen. Here are ways to complicate things during missions. Specific tasks like bureaucracy and how service groups can ruin the troubleshooter's plans. Traders a poppin'. Top 5 most wanted traders in Alpha Complex. Each comes with full stats, lackeys, locations, and mission prompts. With a bit of work, GMs can have missions involving Major Omega, Wooter, and more. Keep trading on, trader. In-character flyers for every secret society hand out to players or mine for ideas. As an added bonus, each group also gets 3 hideouts where they can plan their nefarious plots against all that the computer says is good and pure. Puppet Strings, a character generation mini-game that ups the shenanigans so players have even more reasons to be at each other's throats at the start of the game. The 404 Compendium, 6 parts, 1 title, and a metric ton of treason. You can pre-order the 138-page Paranoia 404 Compendium hardcover with PDF for an MSRP of $49.99. Or you can grab just the PDF alone right now over at Drive-Thru RPG for $29.99. Do have to say, there's no word yet on when this physical book is going to ship, but if you do order from Mongoose Publishing and you want to get the physical book, you will get the PDF. I believe it'll be nearly immediately. So there is that as well. There is a bundle over on Humble Bundle I will be talking about tomorrow, which features Paranoia. It does not feature the latest edition of Paranoia, but I'll get into a lot more detail about that on tomorrow's show. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I've been talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com. First, click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I will get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up to help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find the gaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Refreshing. Thankfully, many of you out there use the banner ads and or visit paypal.me to make donations. Some of them not small donations, I must say. And I really do appreciate that. A metric ton, as we just heard about the Paranoia 404 Compendium. Anyway, you appreciate that a ton because if you're not overly familiar with the channel, I don't do Kickstarters. I don't do Patreons. I don't reach into your pocket constantly to keep this channel around. So there is that. Flaming Heron says, I need a soda sponsor. Yes. I do. I really do need a soda sponsor. What is that? What is that one that you make your own soda? I forget the name of the company. That's who I should have. Not that I use it, but, they could send me like free like packets of whatever, to make the soda. There you go. Yeah, there you go. That would be like getting a small donation, right? Jeff N4Pod says, I need to check out Paranoia. SodaStream, thank you, Flaming Heron. That's exactly what I was thinking of. I say it all the time that Paranoia always strikes me as being more entertaining to read than to play. W4 says, what about a gaming gang Discord? I got to be totally honest. I'm not real well versed with Discord. So, I mean, how many things can I juggle, right? Just like I had thought a few times over the years, maybe add a forum to the gaming gang. And then I thought, oh my gosh, something else that I'm going to have to moderate and, take care of and keep updated and stuff like that. I'm like, But yeah, hey, if anybody out there was like, yeah, I'd like to moderate the Discord, you can always reach out. Anyway, I've got quite a few things to talk about this evening. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's refreshment time, and our refreshment stand is loaded with good things to eat. There's crispy, crunchy popcorn and hot, delicious buttered popcorn, lots of candy, and frosty, refreshing cold drinks. Why not treat yourself at the Refreshment Center now?
There's nothing like a county fair to get you thirsty. And here's the beer worth getting thirsty for. Budweiser. It has a taste, it has a drinkability, it has a smoothness that only Beechwood aging can deliver. So, get thirsty. Budweiser's the best reason in the world to drink beer. I can tell you, Budweiser is the best reason in the world to drink beer.
If you like really good coffee, why not spend the extra money and get 2 cans of Wilkins? Why not?
Ideal's Robot Commando is here to help you. He's your one-man army. No enemy can destroy him. He fights off tanks, hurls missiles one after another. Even a squadron of planes can't stop him. Robot Commando fires his secret weapon. He takes orders from no one except you.
Forward!
Ideal's Robot Commando is battery operated to obey your command. Adjust the control, speak into the microphone.
Left! Fire!
Ideal's Robot Commando is here to help you. Look for your Robot Commando. He's looking for you.
Yes, Ed McMahon getting all liquored up at the state fair. If you're old enough, you may remember Johnny Carson, and then Ed McMahon was his sidekick. And they would always joke about Ed being a drunk. And the funny thing is, Johnny Carson was a drunk. So how big of a drunk was Ed McMahon for Johnny Carson to make fun of him being a drunk? I've always wondered. Very strange, very strange. All right. So if you live here in the U.S., hopefully you enjoyed your President's Day. But today I want to mark the birth of a great American who Abraham Lincoln and George Washington pale in comparison to. No, I'm not talking about my birthday. Today is my best friend Elliott Miller's birthday. Yes, happy birthday to Elliott. I talked to him for a few minutes earlier today to wish him a happy birthday. And he said, you should talk about some of our favorite gaming moments on the show. And he asked me if I would share the story about the racing game at Gen Con. And I thought to myself, did I tell that story before? I may not have. Or if I did, maybe I told it once. So first of all, I met Elliott in high school. I met Elliott on the second day of high school, my freshman year. And the first day was, if memory serves correctly, because keep in mind, this is, more than 40 years ago. The first day was a half day and it was an orientation. And then at the high school I went to Lane Tech, Albert G. Lane Technical High School, to be precise, on Addison and Western in Chicago, because I lived in the city. I grew up in the city. And the first day was just an orientation. And then we had what we called division. So some schools called it homeroom. And there were about 30 of us that were just broken up. And it was like we had a number, like we were like 512 or something like that. So anyways, I'm sitting there and they're talking about sharing lockers. So freshmen had to share lockers. And this guy is sitting there and he's just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking to me. I'm like, and I couldn't even get a word in edgewise. And I'm a talker. And they're like, we should share a locker, blah, blah. And they just kept going on and on. And they were on my right and Elliott was sitting on my left. And I turned to Elliott and I said, well, everybody called him Chip back in the day because he wasn't overly fond of his first name. And so it was always Chip. And now, years later, he prefers people call him Elliott, unless they've known him since high school, right? Then it's okay. But anyway, so I said, hey, how you doing? And he's like, oh, good. And I asked him, I said, hey, man, you want to share a locker? He's like, yeah, okay. And then it turned out we had all these, hobbies in common. We both read a lot. We both played games. He played like D&D and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, wow, that was very cool. And then it just so happened that a bunch of the people that I had a lot of classes with, because I was in honors my freshman year, and like Daryl and Scott and Tim all played games. So that's when we all became friends and we joined the Gamers Guild at Lane Tech. And Elliott and I have been best friends ever since. So this racing story, like I said, I don't know if I've shared this or not in the past. If you are somebody who watches the show constantly, you may have heard this. Anyway, we're at Gen Con, and it is up in Milwaukee. So this is going back. And I want to say I was probably 24, 25. So we're up at Gen Con, and Magic the Gathering, I think it was the second year that Magic the Gathering was out. Because the first year it came out, nobody knew anything about it. They were practically giving away cases of Magic cards. And then the year after that, everybody and their brother had a clone of Magic that they were trying to, jump on board with. And most of them were absolute dog shit. So anyway, it was this following year. And we had some generic tickets. We were trying to find something to do. And we stumbled across, I think we were looking through the event book or whatever, and we saw there was some racing game. And we went over and they had, openings. I see Tesco Love is with us in chat. Tesco's been with us for a bit, hanging out. I didn't say hello earlier, sorry. So anyway, so we end up getting into this, and I want to say it was kind of a hybrid game. It was kind of somebody's own kind of homebrew, but it was based on, what was the game? Cleveland Grand Prix or something like that. I remember you had cards, and the cards had colors on them, and your car was considered a specific color, and you would play these cards, and it would show one color moves so many spaces, and then the next color this, that, whatever. And then you could also like kind of draft behind a vehicle and stuff. We'd never played it, but it was kind of cool because it was a big track broken up into spaces, and we were using like Matchbox size cars. So anyway, so we play and I win. And the guy says, oh, we're having our champion. We're going to have the championship tonight. I was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, well, you won, so you're entered into it. So it turned out this was something that was going on throughout, Gen Con. So, oh, okay. So Elliott and I show up later on that night. And Elliott was like, well, you go ahead and play. And then he was going to just go bum around. Because, I mean, how exciting is it going to be to just stand there watching other people play stuff? Well, anyway, so we get there, and it turns out somebody didn't show up. So Elliott gets into the championship. And I won. And if I remember right, I think Elliott came in like third or something like that. And this guy breaks out this trophy. No joke. This trophy must have stood 4 to 4.5 feet tall. It was like, what the fuck? It's like, here you go. It was like, seriously? So here I end up walking throughout the convention hall in Milwaukee with this massive trophy. And people are like, we're walking by people and they're looking like, oh man, what is that? What is that? And we were laughing because it was like, they must have been thinking, wow, man, that guy just won some Magic tournament, or here was some game that we just jumped in on on a lark. And it was funny because I had to drag that damn thing around with me for a couple of hours before we actually went back to the car and went back to the hotel. But yeah, that was pretty funny. It was a pretty funny moment. So anywho, I thought I would share that in celebration of Elliott's birthday, although it actually has more to do with me than him. But it is one of our gaming moments that we both remember quite well. And if you're not overly familiar with the gaming gang, Elliott's my best friend. We've been best friends since 81. And his memory's not great. So I joke about this all the time, and he'll laugh too, that you could ask him what he had for lunch today, and he probably won't remember, but he can tell you in great detail about a Call of Cthulhu adventure that took place in like 1983. So it is kind of wild. W. Forge asks, whatever happened to the trophy? I had that trophy for probably about 10 years. Maybe, no, I take that back. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did have it for about 10 years. I actually moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico to kind of lend a hand to another friend who was a gamer with us. And I remember that was stored with some of the stuff I left back here because I didn't drive out there. I actually flew out there. So I had a couple of boxes, and that was it. That's all I had when I went out to New Mexico. So, in fact, at that point in time, I didn't own a car because I lived in Chicago. And if you live in Chicago, you don't really need to have a car. I mean, public transportation will get you anywhere you need to go. And I never really needed to have a car. I had cars every once in a while, but then it was like, I never had a car like for 5-10 years, something like that. I'd have a car for a few years, and I'd be like, oh man, it's so damn expensive to maintain a car in the city and pay for parking and crap like that. I'd be like, fuck it, I'm going to sell it. Nowadays, it'd be like, I'd be lost if I didn't have a car. It's like, God, I wouldn't be able to go any place because obviously enough, I don't live in the city anymore. Kevin King says public transit in Phoenix will get you there too, plus or minus 4 hours. Yeah, when I lived out in Arizona, I owned a vehicle. It was like, no. One time I had I had a Chevy S10. I had to take it in for some repairs, and I had to take public transportation for a couple of days. Oh, absolute worst. Absolute worst. And luckily, I worked someplace which was on a transit route because most of the places out there was like, psh. In fact, I remember when I moved out to Arizona, on the back of their buses or on the side of their buses, I should say, were these big advertisements saying that Phoenix now had weekend, or I think it was Saturday public transportation for the first time since Elvis had a #1 hit. I was like, what? Because, of course, I was coming from a city that, 3 o'clock in the morning, okay, I'll go out and catch the bus. Even, though you'd be waiting maybe 20 minutes for that bus, you could still catch the bus. Anyway, other gaming story I have talked about in the past. I'll make it a quick one, though. So Elliott and I are going to be going to the Founders and Legends convention up in Lake Geneva in late March. I've talked about that before. So we actually have our passes. So we were able to go in and schedule some events. Not a bunch. I think we're playing like 3 things and going to take part in a couple of seminars that I'll probably record and share. Because one of them is, I want to say it's Tim Kask and a couple other people who were instrumental to D&D. So I think you might enjoy that talk. So I'm planning on, as long as it's okay with everybody there, I plan on recording it and sharing it. But anyway, so we're going to play, I think it's Dawn Patrol. I don't think it's I don't think it's Fight in the Sky. I think it's Dawn Patrol, but it's being run by that group that if you've been to Gen Con, I think it's the Knights of the Sky Association or something like that, where every year at Gen Con, I think they've been doing this since the very first Gen Con. They run an event, and it's, World War I aerial combat. So anyway, I believe it was our friend Scott Weigel. It may have been our other friend Tim Phelan, but I thought it was our friend Scott Weigel knew this guy. And he was a gamer, but he was also like in his late 30s, early 40s. And here we're like 15, 16. And I'll never forget this guy's name. It was Mark Moffat. And I find it interesting because there's someone who is a follower of the gaming gang named John Moffat. And I always just so tempted to ask if because that's not a common name, right? So anyway, he would run these, game days at his house in his basement. So we went over there a couple of times and we played what I believe was Dawn Patrol, the board game Dawn Patrol, but he actually had 1/72nd scale model planes. And they were on car aerials, like radio antennas, so they could go up and down. And they were also on clay, so you could angle the planes. I've told this story before. And Elliott and I and Scott were there. I don't know if Tim or any of our other gaming friends went. Maybe our friend Daryl was there. And here, we didn't know this game. We just learned how to play the game. But it was one of those where you're plotting the movement. You had to plot your firing and stuff like that beforehand. And we just smoked these guys. It was like, what the? We were rolling good dice, too. So that had a lot to do with it, I think. But they were like, what the hell? We were always tailing their planes, shooting the shit out of them. And we did that the first time. And we went over there again. And it was like, it was beginner's luck, blah, blah, blah. And we did it a second time. We just were, the new guys were annihilating the veterans there. It was pretty funny. It was another kind of fun gaming moment with Elliott and I. We've got so many gaming moments. Unfortunately, Elliott could not make it. He was going to pop into chat, but his family, his kids were all getting together at the house for his birthday. So he promised he will catch the show later on. Russell Higgins is with us, as is Lord Cost 2000. Looks like we got a good chat rocking and rolling today. So Chris Lundgren says their daughter lives in Dyersburg, Tennessee, says there is zero public transportation. I would expect that. Jeff N4 Pod says Knoxville has some buses that run around downtown, mostly for the University of Tennessee students. So those probably stop running at like 10 o'clock. Because that's how it is like in the suburbs outside Chicago. There are suburbs that there's no public transportation. Like out here, there is no public transportation. So we're not really considered a suburb of Chicago because it's an hour drive or more to get to Chicago. So Jeff says they've been gaming since '85, never been to a con. You should go. You really should go. I'm looking forward to Founders and Legends. It's going to be pretty relaxed. I'm going to take a guess. Ellie and I are probably going to do more gaming, just hanging out in the room like we did for GaryCon last year. It's also shorter. It's 3 days. But we are, and oddly enough, it's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But we are heading up there Friday after Elliott gets off of work, and Elliott gets off at work like 3 o'clock. So I'm probably going to drive over by his place. And although we kind of go this way, so I don't know if we're taking 2 vehicles or 1. So Sarah D says they lived another 45 minutes west of where I am. Got hit with a bad storm, 1 year. And the news called us far west suburb of Chicago. Really? Yeah, I was going to say, Sarah was probably closer to being a far eastern suburb of Davenport. Gerlin says they've been gaming since 83. They've been to Gen Con once. It was a blast. Gen Con's my favorite, my absolute favorite convention. I have put in for our press passes because it will be Elliott and I doing that. I'm not going to bother trying to get a pass for Cameron or my brother. And Elliott's not going to be able to go to San Diego Comic-Con. I don't know if I'm going either, to be honest. Probably not. Things would have to change radically for me to go to San Diego Comic-Con this year. Although we've got passes. I got approved for passes. I have not gotten approved for my press passes for Gen Con yet. I reached out to the press person who's been doing it for years, so she knows me. She knows Elliott. And I reached out because the housing portal opens this Sunday. So what they do is they generate a time for you to book a hotel room at a discount. And I know the Madman says they are going to Gen Con. I don't know if the Madman has booked his room yet, but I basically say, if you don't get the room on, if you don't get a time between noon and 1:30 in the afternoon, and it starts at noon on Sunday, you can absolutely forget trying to get a room downtown. It's just not gonna happen. But I was pretty surprised that the prices seem a lot lower than they usually are. So there are some hotels that are on the Skywalk. So if you've been to Gen Con in Indianapolis, you know that the hotels that are right near the, I want to say it's the Indiana Convention Center. I don't think it's the Indianapolis Convention Center. I think they call it the Indiana Convention Center. So there are some hotels that are actually connected to the convention center by skywalks. So when I stayed at the Crown Plaza, which is exactly across the street from the convention center, there was even a skywalk there, strangely enough. But I noticed that a lot of them are $230, $240 a night. I was like, wait a second, that's like way less than what they used to be. I stayed at the Crown Plaza the year after COVID canceled Gen Con. And I went by myself because Elliott couldn't make it. And I had booked, well, I thought he was going at this point. When I booked the room, it was $1,600, if I remember correctly, with tax. And of course, there's the stupid resort fee nonsense, whatever, that kind of crap. But that was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, because I always go on Wednesday because then I bring stuff for the auction. And then I drop it off on Wednesday so I don't have to screw around with it anymore. And they used to do a Wednesday day at one of the hotels, which was for retailers, which the press was invited to attend if they wanted So I'd usually go over there and kind of, talk to some of the folks that I knew who were there. Like I would talk to people from like AEG, and Jason Bonner was another guy I would talk to. Oh, it's Brenner, not Bonner. Jason Bonner's from Paizo Inc. But yeah, I would talk to, some of the folks that I knew. And just kind of kick back, relax. But they really don't do that anymore. Or if they are doing that, they don't let the press attend it or something. I don't know. But anyway, so I was going to say, the Madman, make sure if you don't have your room yet. Oh, I see that the Madman says in chat that they have yet to book it. Keep your eyes peeled for when they assign you your time. It'll probably be on Friday, because they were saying that you had to have your pass or your badge by a certain time on Friday. So probably late on Friday, they'll reveal the times, and it's all random. I remember one year it was like 6 p.m. or something. I was like, yeah, there wasn't jack shit left. So, Jeff N4 Pod says they lived up in Northwest Indiana till they were 8. I lived in Mishawaka, Indiana for a couple of years when I was delivering vehicles around the country. Spent most of the next 40 years in Florida. Should have gone to MegaCon at least once. Lived about 3 miles away from the Orange County Convention Center. Wow. So anyway, I should also point out, Madman, you've got my email. You should drop me an email when you find out when your housing portal time is. Because if we get an earlier time, because it should be I get a time and Elliott gets a time. So it's everybody who's got a pass will get a time. I think you can actually book more than one room. Not positive, but something to keep in mind. So if you get like a really lousy time and somehow we get like 12:30, because that's how I got the Crown Plaza. Was when I think it was like a 12:35 time. I was like, ooh. Chris Lundgren asks, of all OSR I've played at a convention, I have not played much OSR at conventions, to be very honest with you. I don't play a lot of games at conventions at the con. I spend a lot of time interviewing people at conventions. That's normally what happens. I normally do not get an opportunity to play much. If I do play stuff, it's usually at night when we get back to the room, or like after we go out for dinner and have a few cocktails or something like that. So, gotta say, I have not really played OSR. I did get into a game of Mutant Crawl Classics at GaryCon. Elliott and I both did, and had a lot of fun. So that was cool. We got to do that. We had not actually played together as players in a role-playing game in 40-some years. So it was pretty wild. We had a good time. We were kind of surprised how, because remember, I'm a game master. I'm the forever GM. So I don't get too many opportunities to really ever play. So it's different being a player than it is a game master. Because if you are a game master and you've been a game master for so many years, it's kind of tough to kind of step back a gear, kind of drop down a gear to be a player. Because you're so used to like being in control of everything. And, as a player, you're not. So we had a good time. We had a lot of fun. Chris Lundgren asks, if I had one person I got to interview, who would it be? If we're talking somebody who's still alive, you know what I would really like to interview? And you're going to probably think this is kind of weird because it's not really game related, Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman comes across as a really fascinating person, a very interesting person. Funny enough, if, you know how they always talk about, oh, if you could have a dinner party with, various different people. I think a dinner party with John Oliver, Paul Giamatti, Neil Gaiman, and Kevin Smith would be really interesting. It would probably be very, very funny. I don't know if you know this about Paul Giamatti. He is a huge science fiction fan, and he reads a lot of, and he says it himself, he reads a lot of trash SF from the 40s and 50s and things like that. And he is one of these people who just goes to used bookstores all the time. He hosts a podcast. I've only listened to, I think, 2 of the episodes. And one of them, strangely enough, had Ken Burns on. But Paul Giamatti and his co-host do this podcast, and it's usually about kind of like paranormal stuff, weird things. And it's pretty interesting. Like I said, he strikes me as someone really interesting and would probably be fairly down to earth. In fact, all of them do. So yeah, I would say if I had just an opportunity to interview one person that there's absolutely no way I would ever really get an opportunity to interview, I think it would be Neil Gaiman. I really do. I think it would. So Jeff says, YouTube is your life, but makes great content. I certainly wouldn't say YouTube is my life. I mean, Chris says they tend to be the forever GM themselves, so they can fully relate. Gerlin says they're the forever GM. Honestly, I think we get far more game masters hanging out watching the live show than just players. Although one of our chat moderators, Sarah D, doesn't play any games. She just hangs out because she enjoys the company, I guess. So Tessie Trekkie says, if they had their dream table, it'd be me GMing. Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, come on, man. You got Ben Milton, Seth Skurkowski, and Dave from Thumivore. I know who you're talking about. I don't know how to pronounce that. And themselves. Come on, man. Seth sounds like he'd be like a load of fun as the game master. So I don't know. I don't know. I would think myself personally, I would be like in last place as the GM in that list there. I'll tell you one thing that I am absolutely guilty of is, for the most part, when I'm running a game, when I'm game mastering, I really don't give a shit about mechanics. I really don't. I am one of these people who is like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, roll. Yeah, okay. It's like, so should I look this rule up? Nah. Just like, like Call of Cthulhu. That's mainly what I run. And with Call of Cthulhu, I run Call of Cthulhu from like past editions. So there are rules that I am very aware of in 7th edition Call of Cthulhu I just don't utilize. I try to make the game as easy as I possibly can. Flaming Heron says just hand wave through it. I don't tend to hand wave. I will do dice rolls a lot, but I don't just go, oh, yeah. Because I prefer to have some, some chaos to the proceedings, like, oh, well, yeah. Just like one of my friends over on Facebook that I went to high school with, had posted something about, what were the exact words? Something about the words from a game master where it would be like, well, you can certainly try that. I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, you're certainly welcome to try that. It's like, oh, yeah, I use words along those lines a lot. Oh, okay. Is that what you want to do? Okay. So speaking of, I really want to run something. Only problem is I do not have a group that I can depend on that's going to be available. In fact, my nephew Cameron deploys on Friday. He's going to be in Africa for 3 months. Elliott's hit or miss. It's like, it's kind of weird, but it's sort of like, he's only allotted so much time that he's, he could be away from home. But anyway, I really want to run something. So I had been kicking around. There is a game store in Oswego, Illinois, which is probably a 15, 20-minute drive for me. And they have open game tables. And I would like to run something there. And as far as I understand, there's no charge. They don't charge for the tables. It's just first come, first served. So there is a game store in Plainfield, Illinois, that's pretty nice. It's the Dragon something. In fact, I went and interviewed the owner when I first moved out here to the Yorkville area. And he was nice enough, but they charge like $5 an hour per player, and you can't bring any outside food or drinks in. And it's like, I'm sorry, I cannot run a role-playing game without, some diet soda on hand. And I had noticed they sold, like Diet Coke, and it was like $2.50 a can. I was like, So anyway, I would look to run something at that game store probably every couple of weeks. But I gotta get I gotta get a group together. I gotta get people together. So Jeff N4 Pod says, I don't get the idea of a store charging for tables. Is that a common thing? Well, this store, I will point out, the tables are in private rooms. So it's not like this, the place I'm talking about, maybe running stuff at. It's not just a room that's got a bunch of tables. Like there was a game store it was either far north Indiana or it was right on it may have been the Michigan border. It may have been in Michigan. When I lived in Mishawaka, I went up there to go check out. And it was a pretty big store. But it was another one of those game shops where you walked in and they look at you and it was like they wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. Nobody said hello, nothing. And if I remember right, I think the guy behind the counter was sorting and filing away magic cards. But I mean, it doesn't kill somebody to just say, hi, how are you doing? Is there anything in particular I could help you out with? Whatever, right? I used to deal with the public. That's what I did. That was what my career consisted of up until not that long ago when I started delivering vehicles around the country. But that's one of the things that kind of irritates me when you go to a game store and you walk in the door and it's the first time you've been there. So you're not a regular. So they don't recognize you, but they don't even bother to say hello to you. It's sort of like, it doesn't even have to be when you first walk in the door. You could be in there for a few minutes and at least have somebody acknowledge your existence. Well, he certainly didn't do that. And then I had heard that they had like one of the biggest gaming areas in that area. And they did. They had this like side room that had all these tables. And I went in there, it was like a Friday night. And there were a good number of people there. But it was so loud. I was like, man, there is absolutely no way that I would play in a room like this, because it was one of those situations where it starts off, one table is loud, and you see this at conventions too. We saw this at GaryCon, and there's pretty much no way to get around it. Of course, like when you go to Gen Con, it's spread out enough where it's just a drone that runs through the room. And of course, the halls that the games are run in are large enough where it's just a rah, 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 going on. Anyway, it essentially started off, one table was loud, so that meant the other tables nearby them had to get louder so people could hear them over that first table, which then led other tables to have. So I walked in there, I was like, is this an auction going on or something? So I was like, man, it's loud in here. I was like, what the hell? Anyway, so I don't know if that's the situation that would be at the game store that I'm talking about in Oswego. It's not big. It's not a big store. And it's like an upper level, and it looked like they had 4 or 5 tables. So I wouldn't think it would get too crazy loud. Anyway, I would like to do that. So here's what I would like to ask you. What role-playing game, and don't say 5e D&D, please. And let me know in chat. Not in chat, I should say, in the comment section. Not in chat, because I'm going to wrap up the show in just a moment. What role-playing game that I have talked about would you be interested in playing if you could be part of the group? Let me know. And it can't be Call of Cthulhu either. No 5e D&D. Let's say no Pathfinder 2nd edition, because I don't want to run something that complex. As a player, yes, I would certainly play that. And if I were running something on, say, Foundry, I would probably look at the remastered Pathfinder 2nd edition, because I love that 3-action economy. I think that really makes Pathfinder stand out. But I don't want to deal with that in a live group. So, no 5e for obvious reasons. No Pathfinder 2nd edition, no Call of Cthulhu. Everything else is on the table. So I know there are people asking questions and stuff in chat. All those are on the table. So, very nice. Shadow of the Demon Lord. I don't have any experience in Shadow of the Demon Lord, Travis. I don't think I said hello to Travis Williams tonight. I think Travis has been here for a while, too. So, welcome. Remember, don't give me the answer in chat. Wait till the stream is over, and please answer in the comment section. All right, so that is it for this time out. Pretty long show tonight. Once again, big happy birthday to my best bud, Elliott Miller. Hopefully he tunes in, takes a peek at this. Tales of Equestria for My Little Pony. All right, Tessie Trekkie, you wise ass. That ain't going to be happening. Kabuki Kid is popping on in as we wrap up. Good to see you, Double K. Anyway, if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, big tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company as well. But of course, a lot of you, I know, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy life to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Of course, if you have not caught my most recent videos, by all means, if you're interested, give them a peek. I did a first look at the Warhammer 40K roleplay Wrath and Glory starter set. Also shared a peek inside the Walking Dead universe role-playing starter set, as well as, yes, the core rulebook right there. I should mention when I do my reviews, I am going to have some giveaways, maybe even physical copies. I know I will have PDFs, and I should have multiple PDFs, but I am going to do those giveaways for the reviews. Sweet. All righty then. So enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. I will be back tomorrow. And as always, I certainly hope every one of you out there gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. I was like, wait a second, where'd my little sub thing go?